welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Minneapolis. Maria Bartholdi in the booth with Paulo Vito Damaderosa, Craig Wesco on the left side of the screen, Ken Yukihiro on the right. Two all-star players, both undefeated so far in this tournament. And here we are underway with our first round of draft, and we're going to kick things off with a departed deckhand from Ken Yukihiro, one of my all-time favorite cards in this format, actually. I love an evasive 2-drop.
Oh, yeah, that card is really, really good. It would be good even if it didn't have either of its abilities, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if it didn't have the first part of the ability, it would be even better. But if it either wasn't unblockable itself, or effectively unblockable, or didn't make other things unblockable, it would still be good.
Yeah, I think there's only 3 other spirits in this set that can block Departed Deckhanded. Not very profitably either. At least all of them. One's a 2-1. There's a Dwindle from Craig Wesco on the Departed Deckhand, which does kill it as it was targeted by a spell. And here's Johnny's Last Stand, followed up with a Vampire Sovereign from Ken Yukihiro, one of the cards we saw Craig Wesco pass along for his first pick. Shock.
Yeah, the Siege Vampire.
Yeah, Siege Vampire.
There. Yeah, that card is amazing. I think that is one of the premium uncommons in this set. I would always be very happy to have it in my deck. It does match up, I guess, kind of poorly against the Johnny's Last Stand if it's ever triggered. But
yeah, Craig here having to use a Dwindle on the Vampire Sovereign. So those have been his first 2 plays of the game. One killed off that Departed Deckhand, one shrinking down the Vampire Sovereign. But Mirror Image here is going to copy the Vampire Sovereign. Oh my gosh, I think Ken Yukihiro drafted 4 copies of Mirror Image. So we're going to have to find out how many actually ended up in his deck, but that could be pretty brutal as it's going to drain for 3 every time it copies.
Yeah, and it's really good against blue-white specifically because a lot of the removal doesn't remove the creature from play. So as we're seeing here, Craig got rid of the Vampire Sovereign, but he didn't really get rid of it.
Right.
And if you have a card like Luminous Bonds, similarly, the creature doesn't attack, doesn't block, but it's still there to be copied. So if Ken Yukihiro is not playing all 4 copies of this card in his main deck, which he probably shouldn't, 4 is a lot, he might just bring them in against specifically a blue-white deck.
Salvager of Secrets here for Ken Yukihiro with a cancel.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We saw, I don't know if you guys were here yesterday, we saw Ken Yukihiro playing last round, and he had a blue-green deck and then switched for a blue-white deck.
Yes.
And then I asked him after I found him, and I asked Ken, do you always switch? Like, did you just think you misbuilt your deck, or you thought the other deck was better? Or was there something in your opponent's deck that made you switch? And he said, no, every time they have a lot of removal, I switch from green to white because I have big creatures in green and token makers in white. So if they're going to kill the big creatures, I'd rather have more creatures.
Sure.
Which, makes sense. And I was curious about it. I don't know if someone else was curious about it, so there is your answer.
Oh, thank you. Interesting to know. Aven Windmage for Ken Yukihiro here. Craig Wesco managed to stick a Scholar of Stars after a Sky Scanner, so he did draw a couple of cards last turn.
Yeah, and here Johnny's Last Stand is making it so that Ken Yukihiro is not even attacking. He probably wants to wait until he amasses a stronger board, and then he attacks. The Sky Scanner will chump block something, but the Avatar token won't be available to block immediately. Or the Angel token, as we're going to unofficially call it.
A 4/4 flying Avatar. I suppose it doesn't have Vigilance. You can see on the bottom of our screen there, we've got kind of a little ticker going with some information about the players' decks here. So Craig Wesco playing 3 copies of Dwindle in his deck. He does have a copy of Mystic Archaeologist at Johnny's Last Stand that we see there, Psy Master Thopterist, and 2 Aviation Pioneers. Speaking of, there is 1 hitting the table right now.
Yeah, and Craig here with an interesting sequence. Normally you want to play Divination, then you see what you draw, and then you play your other card. But he knows there is a cancel mechanical here in his hand.
Right.
So he would rather just play the creature and then after that cast the Divination, which is not what he would do unless he knew about the cancel.
Ken Yukihiro's got copies of Lich's Caress, Murder, and a Plague Mare. Windreader Sphinx also in his deck.
Oh, Plague Mare. Yeah. Unfortunately, that would just get the 4/4 in place sooner rather than later. But, if Craig is planning on blocking with several of his tokens in the same turn.
Well, Craig's got a Psy in his deck, and it turns out so does Ken Yukihiro. Down comes the Psy.
Yeah, it is the side mirror match.
And we're just kind of at a standstill here.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a standstill that heavily favors Ken Yukihiro.
Yes.
Given that we know his hand. There's a cancel, there's a Reader's Sphinx there. And that card is particularly brutal against other blue flying decks.
Yes.
Because it doesn't only work off your flyers.
No, if anybody attacks with a creature with flying, Ken gets to draw a card, and he is going to draw 4 cards right here. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Dwindle doesn't say you can't attack, so swing it on in.
It does not say that, yeah.
Ken draws 4.
That's pretty good. 7 mana, 3/7 flying, draw 4, and probably 4 more
good.
next turn. And if they attack you, you draw some as well. Cards, and you draw a card, and you draw a card. And yeah, it's really good with Sai as well because it's just making a bunch of cheap flyers.
Oh boy, Windreader Sphinx! What a beating here for Craig Wesco.
Yeah, and that window is just the gift that keeps on giving. First it let it copy the Vampire Sovereign, then it let him draw a card out of it. No, Dwindle is a card that is very good in those blue-white flyer decks, like the one Craig Wesco has. Because usually the downside is that you lose an attack. When you Dwindle something, you attack, they can block, and then you miss out on that damage. But if you're this flyers deck, you just do it on a ground creature, they can't block anyway.
Yeah, they thought it was the angel too. Nope, it's the avatar. Creature token, no vigilance there.
Yeah, I think we need a judge over there. This is unacceptable.
Okay, so we're going to get a Horizon Scholar, which is one of the best cards in Craig Wesco's deck here. He's going to get to scry 2. And it's pretty big. He's got 2 4/4 flyers now, and usually like, oh, that's great. But
yeah. Yeah, that is usually great, but he also knows there is a cancel in Ken Yukiohiro's deck, so he doesn't cast something now, which we know he can't. Then his next card is not going to resolve either. So he's in trouble. And Ken, of course, just drew 4 cards.
Yeah.
And is going to draw like 4 more. So if he wants to.
Craig's got Make a Stand in hand here, but here's Lich's Caress.
Yeah, you could play Make a Stand, but that will just be met with cancel. And I think that is just...
Yeah, get the cancel out of the hand, I guess.
But that turns the Aven Windriders into 4/4s already.
Yeah.
So they already can't be blocked by the Avatar token.
Yeah, Ken Yukihiro just swinging with the team again here. Assign the Salvager stay back, but he's going to draw 5.
Maybe we can deck him.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we're drawing 5 cards. The Avatar is going to jump in front of the... Okay, doesn't matter. Let's move ahead here. Craig Wesco scoops him up. Ken Yukihiro taking down game 1 there in kind of spectacular fashion, drawing so many cards off that Windreader Sphinx. Mystic Archaeologist is the first play from Craig Wesco, which is one of the better cards in his deck, but it's going to be immediately outclassed, at least on attacks, by an Omen Speaker.
Yeah, and it looks like Craig Wesco will probably get to draw at least 2 cards out of that. There is a Lich's Caress in Ken Yukiohiro's hand, but that is a little bit slower since Craig is on the play, so that's good. And if you ever draw 2 cards for Archaeologist, then you trade with... Oh, oops.
Ah! No! Plague Mare!
Never mind.
Giving all of Craig's creatures -1/-1.
Is that the bane of Craig Wesco's life, Plague Mare?
Oh, absolutely. That
can't
Goblin
be blocked by
Chain
white
Whirler.
creatures.
Oh, yeah, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, that was sad. I was like, maybe Craig has a chance this game. Well, he's going to try his best to build back up the board here. Aviation Pioneer comes along with a Thopter.
Yeah, well, and there's the image as well, so we can just copy the Plague Mare if Ken Yukihiro wants. We could just see an attack here from Ken Yukihiro with... It is weird because if Plague Mare attacks, it would just be double blocked, I imagined.
All right, so Plague Mare, Omen Speaker, hit the red zone for Ken Yukihiro. Craig Wesco here contemplating blocks.
Yeah, if Craig Wesco blocks the Omen Speaker, that's pretty bad for him because then the Plague Mare will be copied and his board will be wiped. But if he double blocks the Plague Mare, which I think is what he should do regardless, then he's in a good spot. That did not work out well for him. I think Ken Yukihiro's attack is pretty brave here. I don't think he wants to lose the Plague Mare, and I thought
Yeah.
that would be the natural play because you're not really going to get punished by anything if you double block. Like, sure, they use a removal spell, like a disperse on your token, then you're fine with that. But
Mirror Image copies the Plague Mare, deals with the rest of Wesco's creatures after those blocks here. Gearsmith Guardian hits the table. It's just going to be a 3-5, but that is big enough for Ken Yukihiro to use Lich's Caress and take it down. Another attack in here for 5.
yeah, and now Craig Wesco has to produce non-white blockers, which is not that easy
No.
in his deck. He is base white, I believe. Like, white is his deepest color, I think. He does have blue creatures as well. We'll see one in his hand. He will probably just have to play it, the Scar of Stars, without getting the draw card ability.
Wesco already down to 12. Yukihiro at a comfortable 23. Scholar of Stars, the saddest it's ever been here. Cast, not able to draw a card as there are no artifacts in play, but it can block a Plague Mare. You know.
And which one do you block?
Right.
It's an interesting decision. Like, you have to assume it can be bounced or it can be resurrected. There's Gravedigger, there's Macabre Waltz in the format. So it is an interesting thing to consider.
Aven Windmage, the follow-up for Ken Yukihiro. Plague Mare down, Scholar of Stars down, and we have a Dwindle in hand. Well, is that a Dwindle? I think it is for Craig Wesco. I could be wrong.
If it is a Dwindle, we'll probably see that played. The question is, do you want to play it on a Plague Mare or on the Wind Ritter? Yeah, I think that is the right decision from him. He probably has more creatures that block the Plague Mare than... Oh, never mind now. Now the sequence of plays is very weird to me because he just enchanted a creature that can't block and then got rid of the other one. Whereas if he just dwindled the other creature, he would just be able to block. So now he missed 3 damage and he only blocked 1 damage effectively.
Dwindle on the Aven Windmage and a Knight's Pledge on the Rustwing Falcon. The mirror image copy of Plermag able to get in. Rustwing Falcon cannot block it. I think here, we see, somebody doing their first draft of the format. Maybe a little unfamiliar.
Yeah, and that
some
is...
of the interactions.
I think that's something that's happened to a lot of the pros here. This is probably the one tournament where the people not playing at the PT are more prepared than the people playing at the PT.
Yeah.
Because the PT is next week, and it doesn't have M19 in it. So if you're playing, you're playing Legacy, Standard, Modern, you're just practicing this all the time.
Wind Reader Sphinx for Ken Yukihiro. And we are going to draw a card from the Aven Windmage, which can still attack through the Dwindle. Is going to get blocked here successfully, though, but Ken draws a card. And he's got that giant 3/7 in play, not to mention that Plague Mare, which is currently unblockable on Wesco's board, and he can't find any other creatures, just 2 lands the last 2 draws for him.
Yeah, we're probably just going to see an attack with everything by Ken Yukihiro. He won't mind sacrificing the Omen Speaker to get in 3 extra damage. Never mind. He seems like he will. Because the Falcon can just block the Sphinx, and they bounce off each other. So I would have attacked with Omen Speaker there as well. I think that's... You don't care about the Omen Speaker, you care about the damage more. But
Doom to center. Follow-up for Ken Yukihiro. Disperse in hand, by the by. To deal with that suited up Rustwing Falcon. Snapping Drake was the draw for Craig.
Oh, Disperse and cancel? Yeah. And Ken Yukihiro doesn't even have to cancel anything. He has his game locked up.
Yeah. Disperse is going to be on the Snapping Drake, turns out.
Interesting play here. I believe this game is over either way.
Yeah.
But Ken Yukihiro could have dispersed at the end of the turn, which is what a lot of people would have done. But he didn't because he knew that the 2 mana wasn't going to matter in his turn. So it matters I'll draw a card first.
So Ken Yukihiro takes that match 2-0 over Craig Wesco in pretty easy fashion there. His deck looked
easy.
Pretty good. We saw him draft earlier, but it's pretty neat to actually watch how that draft plays out, particularly with his use of mirror images.
Yeah, I think his deck is good, and his deck also lined up particularly well with what Craig Wesco was doing because he had so many ways of abusing creatures without necessarily attacking with them. So Dwindle wasn't going to do much, and that's the only removal in Craig Wesco's deck. And Windridger thinks, that's not easy for a deck to remove. And Crack's deck was just a bunch of flyers, so they couldn't even attack. So yeah, that was really, really good for him.
All right, more draft coming up in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Minneapolis. We are watching our first round of draft this morning, and coming up here we have Michael Berniecki versus Kentaro Yamamoto, and we saw him draft. He was our third featured drafter this morning. He drafted a pretty sweet red-white deck that he was obviously favoring, kind of forcing it, pack one, pick one, Boggart Brute.
Okay, I mean, that's not... I do like red-white.
Yeah, you do.
And I do like Boggart Brute. I don't know how eager I'd be to first pick it, but, you know, it's a card I'm happy to have in my red-white decks.
He definitely had a plan, so let's check out how his plan panned out in this draft. I'm not quite sure what Michael Berniecki drafted, but coming into this draft, he was one of the two players that were paired up at this pod. He came in at 8-1. Kentaro Yamamoto is the other 8-1 player, so they're going to be facing each other. Each had a loss coming into the tournament. The rest of the pod was undefeated. We just saw Craig Wesco lose to Ken Yukihiro with his blue-white deck versus Ken Yukihiro's blue-black artifact deck. So why do you like the red-white deck so much in this format?
I think you don't need anything special for it to be great. Like, you don't need uncommons, you don't need rares. Like, if you go, the black-white lifelink deck, right? That's a great deck if it works, but you kind of depend on some specific cards like a Jonas Pride Mage or the Regal Bloodlord. If you were a red-white deck, you just get cards like Trumpet Blast that people don't even want, and then you put all of them in your deck, and your deck's great. So it's the easiest deck to make work, I think.
Well, let's see if it does work. Let's head on down to the feature match area. Here we go. Michael Baraniecki, 8-1. Kentaro Yamamoto, also 8-1. All right, Goblin Motivator, the first play of the game for Kentaro, exactly where he wants to be. Vampire Neonate for Mike, and a Walking Corpse as well. So he's putting up a bit of a wall versus Kentaro pretty early.
Yeah, I think that is probably red-white's bad matchup, so to speak. I think this draft format has an interesting characteristic that we talked about a bit yesterday, that all the decks are very similar to each other if they're that archetype. So all the green-white aura decks look similar to all the green-white aura decks. I thought he was playing black-white. So, but anyway, all the red-white decks look similar. They want to do the same thing, or the black-white decks want to do the same thing. So that means you have distinct matchups, which is not something you normally have in Limited. So, for example, the green-white auras deck has a bad matchup against the blue bounce deck, which is a deck that exists. So, and I think the red-white deck, even though it's my favorite deck, has a bad matchup against specifically black-white, which is not the deck that Mike is playing here. I just assumed I saw the Vampire Neonate, and I was like, oh, that's black-white.
Vampire Neonate, I've seen lots of different decks. People just like the card, the ability to drain your opponent for a couple of mana. He's playing red-black. 2 copies of Walking Corpse in his deck, so that's a pretty aggressive card. A lot of people not interested in a 2/2 for 2 that doesn't have any other abilities, but he's happy to put him in his deck.
It is aggressively bad. I agree with that.
It's aggressively bad.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes you have to play it for curve considerations. You don't need any synergies. It's pretty good now. It's stopping 3/1s and stopping the 3/3 from coming in. So now it's working. It's doing what he needs it to do.
BDM's like, maybe he's got Liliana. There was a Liliana in the draft.
Oh, there was,
a good point.
And Liliana is probably, the worst Planeswalker ever printed for Limited, specifically.
It's very bad.
No, like, seriously, I mean, I guess
it's
you have
almost unplayable or unplayable.
You have, like, all-stars like Tibalt, that are just bad everywhere across the board. But Liliana specifically is a card that is playable in Constructed, is even good in Constructed in the right deck, but a lot of black decks won't even want it.
Right.
In Limited. Because if you don't have zombies, it does absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. All the abilities are nothing. Yeah, which is pretty rare. Planeswalkers are usually the best cards in the set. The other Planeswalkers are all great.
By the way, Mike constrained on lands here, and Kentaro really putting the screws to him here. Make a stand. My creatures are indestructible, and they get +1/+0. So he's taking a massive hit on this attack this turn.
Yeah, Mike here with a small heads-up play of not blocking with the Neonate. That was a free block, and he didn't do it because Kentaro Yamamoto could just have a mass pump spell, of which there are a lot in this format. But still, I kind of question, would he actually win through a removal spell? Through a pump spell. I think he actually could if it was Trumpet Blast or the Charge Inspired Charge, because then he would have traded instead of just losing all his creatures. But the fact that it was Make a Stand specifically means he basically cannot win this game anymore.
Yeah, Mike's looking pretty dead here. Stuck on lands, unfortunately, for a lot of this game. Goblin Motivator sending a hasty Boggart Brute into the fray as well. And, it turns out Mike is actually running that Liliana in his deck.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen 2 zombies. If there are a couple more, then the card is actually pretty good.
Goblin Instigator here will buy him a little bit of time, making him some tokens as well, which match up really nicely against those Oresco Swiftclaws that Kentaro is running.
Yeah, I wonder if we're just going to see Kentaro take out his Oresco Swiftclaws for game 2. But it's something that you can do if you've seen enough One Toughness creatures, and Walking Corpse kind of blocks it as well. So it's not the best card. He might need to play it for curve considerations, but he could very easily side it out.
Goblin Motivator turn 1 once again for Kentaro. Mike, though, has got a great one here in Goblin Instigator, bringing along a goblin creature token with it, a couple of 1/1s into play. We know that Kentaro's deck is comprised of a lot of small creatures.
Yeah, Kentaro can offer the trade here. I think if he offers the trade, it will definitely be accepted. So, but he chooses not to. He could give you haste and attack.
That's Dark Dweller Oracle for Kentaro, 2/2 for 2. You can pay to sacrifice a creature and play the top card of your library this turn.
Yeah, I love that card. I think it's deceptively strong. Obviously, you look at it and you're like, well, I'll play it, but I think it's actually very good. Because, the 2-drops in this format often don't do anything in the late game. This one does. It's a sec outlet for cards like, Doom Dissenter and Dragon Egg. And then it also works very well with Reassembling Skeleton, for example.
Ravenous Harpy.
Yeah, Ravenous Harpy works well with those two. It works very well with Extra Prison. We saw Mike Sigris have that combo yesterday.
That was sick. Skymarch Bloodletter for Baraniaki there. Heads to the skies, drains for 1. Dark Dweller Oracle on the attack this turn. And now it seems that it's Kentaro who is constrained on land.
Yeah, interesting attack here, and interesting no block as well.
Yeah, because he didn't attack with it the previous turn.
Yeah, which means, he's signifying that he wants to do something with his 2 open mana. He maybe has a trick of some sort. He couldn't cast it last turn, now he can. But I'm usually of the philosophy, like, make them do it. Especially if it's early in the game and the trick is going to waste their entire turn.
Make them have it and spend their mana.
Yeah, like, obviously you're not going to, triple block a creature with Death Touch and then just lose all your creatures to any one combat trick. But in the spot, you would be trading 2 tokens for a combat trick into mana on turn 3. That's if the combat trick even exists. So I think I would probably have blocked here, but I understand why you wouldn't.
Sigiled Sword of Valoron for Mike. One of the excellent rares in this set. Can help his creatures get through and start to increase his army.
Yeah, I think the fact that the 2/2s have to attack, like they already come into play attacking, is definitely a big drawback to the card and not a bonus. Because they're so easy to just block or double block with multiple 1/3s and things like that. But it's definitely still a good card, and if your opponent doesn't have an answer, you can run away with the game.
Walking Corpse for Mike, who can't get past 3 mana, but both of these decks, able to operate at least relatively well on low mana.
Yeah, it's like you're playing Legacy over here. And now Kentaro is in a difficult spot, because if Kentaro ever taps out, then Mike gets to equip his flyer and then, at least generate a knight. But Kentaro only has 3 lands. What is he supposed to do? He can't just pass forever, because Mike would just get to keep playing spells. So Kentaro has to play something and accept that the equipment will be there. Now, he has another 1/3, so he can actually stop the knights from coming through. Oh, or he can just attack.
Oh, here we go. So Kentaro getting aggressive, attacking in with the Dark Dweller Oracle that's in the skies thanks to the Pegasus Courser.
Yeah, and this shows me that he has something that he believes is going to swing the race. Because this is not a race he's winning right now necessarily. No. But if he has, a mass bump spell like a Trumpet Blast or an Inspired Charge, then it makes sense that he would be attacking here. That is a very interesting shift from doing a standstill to aggression that I think a lot of players wouldn't do. They'll be like, well, I'll play this Pegasus, I'm on the back foot, I'll just wait, I'll double block the Knight token if it's equipped, so I'm not taking any damage here. From the Knight, I'm taking 4 from the Bloodletter, my opponent wastes their turn and whatnot, but it decides to go on aggressive here, which I think is a good play if he does have something to swing that race.
4th land for Mike, Blood Divination in hand, but we're going to equip the Skymarch Bloodletter with the sword. Walking Corpse gets in 2, coming along a 2/2 Knight. So we've got a lot going on here. Kentaro's going to gain a life, though, with this Daybreak Chaplain.
Yeah, I could actually have equipped one of the Goblins and attacked, for more damage, but probably doesn't want to give Kentaro the option of just blocking with the Chaplain and trading and forcing him to spend 3 more mana again next turn to equip.
Leonin Vanguard was the draw for Kentaro this turn. Militia Bugler sort of pulled to the front. And yeah, I see that Trumpet Blast in hand that you were talking about, Paulo, a way for him to swing the race in his favor once he's got Mike down to a low enough life total. And it's plays like that, you know, attacking last turn to put himself in the best position to use that Trumpet Blast later rather than being afraid of what Mike's board has done. That really kind of delineates him as one of the best players of the game.
Oh, yeah, Kentaro definitely a player that, you know, kind of appeared out of nowhere. At least for me, I wasn't even aware of his existence. Maybe he was, you know, people already knew he was good in Japan. And then a couple years later, he just started winning everything.
Trumpet Blast here. Pegasus Courser and the Dark Dweller Oracle get in, and we're going to be able to trade for that Skymarch Bloodletter and push through some damage. So now we're all tied up at 10.
Yeah, things are still not looking great for Kentaro here.
No.
His opponent definitely has the better board, and will have an even better board if he just equips the sword to anything, which he decides not to do, which is kind of a surprise to me.
So we're going to see potential double block here, the Daybreak Chaplain and the Goblin Motivator from Kentaro as the Walking Corpse and the Knight token both enter the fray. Okay, so we're going to choose to kill the Daybreak Chaplain, which makes sense.
Well, we're not killing it yet. He has
No.
to have something like Skeleton Archer.
There it is.
Yeah,
I just assumed he had it.
yeah, he had to, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would just kill the other creature. But
Skeleton Archer, ping, finishes off the Daybreak Chaplain.
yeah, that's not even that great, though, because Skeleton Archer could always finish off the
That's true.
the one in Goblins. So it's not
Yeah.
like he tricked Kentaro or something into double blocking. But yeah, he's in a good position there, I think.
Kentaro still on 3 lands this game, currently leading 1 game over Mike. Militia Bugler here, which always feels a little bad when you're constrained on mana because I'm like, oh, am I just putting all my lands on the bottom?
Oh yeah, that's definitely what happens. It's just, you know, 3 mana, look at the top 4 lands of your library, put it on the bottom. if
And
you,
he didn't get a creature.
yeah. Yesterday we saw, I believe it was in round 1, someone just play Militia Bugler and see 4 rares. And they
Oh,
put
yeah,
the
that
4
was-
rares on the bottom.
that
It was
was
like a
brutal.
Planeswalker, you know, Resplendent Angel, a Giant's Last Stand. I don't remember what the last one was. But yeah, that was pretty cool for the opponent, I guess.
Yeah,
And for us,
this guy.
definitely not for the person putting all the rares on the bottom.
Skeleton Archer swings in for Mike Baraniecki.
Yeah, Kentaro is just making, you know, somewhat, I guess, favorable trades every turn. Like now he's going to trade a 3/3 for a 2/3, which is good for him. But at the same time, those red-white decks operate on a critical mass of creatures.
Right.
So you don't want to be trading if you can avoid it.
Another Skeleton Archer from Mike will take care of the Motivator anyway.
Yeah, if Kentaro didn't take out his Rascal Swiftclaws for Game 2, he would definitely take them out for Game 3. After having seen, you know, 2 Skeleton Archers on top of the Goblin and on top of 2 Walking Corpses. And, you know, generally not a great card against black anyway because there's Doom Dissenter. There is Resembling Skeleton.
Sure,
There's Blade
yeah.
Mare, you know, the Skeleton Archer itself. So,
I think Mike is running 4 Skeleton Archers, by the way.
oh, wow, that is really good against Kentaro's deck.
Leonin Vanguard going to gain a life, back up to 10 for Kentaro Yamamoto, and Bogart Brute hits the table too. One of his pack 1 pick ones. I think he's got 3 in the deck.
Yeah, Leonin Vanguard not that much better against all the
No.
Skeleton Archers, but yeah, I would probably like to see that equipment being equipped at some point. I think, you know, the Knights are going to attack favorably. Your creatures will have Vigilance, so you're just adding blockers as well. So I don't see what can go wrong if you just equip and make an attack here.
You get Vigilance.
Yeah, everything has Vigilance. Like the creature you equip and the token.
We are going to see an equip here onto the Goblin Instigator. So
Yeah.
it'll be a 4-1.
I think if you're a Mike here, you like simplifying the board, right? Because,
Exactly.
again, red-white thrives on flooding the board and then giving bonus to all your creatures. He knows there's Make a Stand in Kentaro's deck, and there might be more Trumpet Blast, or there might be Inspire Charge, the gold card,
Heroic Reinforcements.
Heroic Reinforcement. Yeah, that is actually in Kentaro's hand. We've seen that, I think. And he is just making knights every turn, so he doesn't mind if his creatures die. So he's definitely very happy just attacking and trading the board here.
Walking Corpse, Skeleton Archer, Goblin, Instigator, and the Knight token attack in for Mike Baraniecki, Kentaro Yamamoto contemplating blocks here. Somehow still in this game, despite Mike really presenting more of an impressive board every turn.
Is that 2 Militia Buglers in his hand? In Kentaro's hand?
Oh, really?
I don't know.
He has a few of them in his deck. One's in the graveyard, one is at the front of his hand, so he has at least one.
Oh, I really like his deck.
It's great.
I think it might not necessarily match up well against Mike's Skeleton Archers and the Goblins, but I think his deck is, basically what you want your red-white deck to be. Unless you're going to open a bunch of Dragons and Angels, you'd like that too. But as far as commons and uncommons go, I think he has a pretty good version of the deck.
So board cleaned up a bit after that combat step, but Macabre Waltz is going to return 2 Skeleton Archers to Mike's hand, and they're kind of the bane of Ken's deck. We've got a Goblin token, a Knight token, and a Sigiled Sword of Valoran unequipped left over after that battle.
A bit greedy maybe to return 2 Skeleton Archers.
You think because they're so mana hungry?
Yeah, because if you play Skeleton Archer, you can't equip your sword.
True.
So I think you should just return a 2-drop. In this spot, and the Skeleton Archer, so depending on what Kentaro does, you can just equip and play a 2-drop.
Oh my gosh, I thought that was going to be 4 lands again, but it is 3 lands and a Bogart Brute heading to the bottom of Kentaro's deck, and yeah, he whiffed on both of those Militia Buglers, which is kind of sad, and people are kind of mentioning it during the draft portion, like, yeah, he's got 3 Militia Buglers, but doesn't get the Bogart Brute.
Yeah, that's true. And, that's definitely looking like my Glintnest Cranes in the last PT. Just 2 mana, put 4 cards on the bottom.
Yeah. Knight token attacks, no equip.
Ooh, what can he have?
I wonder what it could be. Beware the Skeleton Archer that you know about. Spark-Tongue Dragon for Mike here.
Yeah, Spark-Tongue Dragon, pretty weird card. At common, anyway.
Yeah, that's...
But not a card we've seen a lot. A 5 mana for flyer for a red with a kicker, kinda.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Finally, Kentaro's had enough.
He's had enough. Mike Baraniecki takes game 2, and we are all tied up here heading into game number 3. In our first round of draft, both of these players at 1 loss in the tournament, so... Very happy with their records, no doubt. Oresco Swiftclaw is going to get haste here from the Motivator, swinging for 3, knocking Baraniecki down to 17. Already Walking Corpse here, a bit of a stop sign.
Yeah, Kentaro doesn't take out the Swiftclaws, which, could be for one of 2 reasons. One, he just doesn't have anything to add.
Sure.
Like, he's not going to play 19 lands, in his red-white aggro deck, so you just leave the Swiftclaw in there, even though he doesn't match up well against what your opponent's doing. Or 2, he thinks that on the play, he can get enough damage with it.
It's worth it.
That, yeah, even if he does die to Skeleton Archer, that's fine. You already got like 9 damage in. Or he just has enough targets in his deck between all the goblins and whatnot that the Skeleton Archer will always kill something. At which point you just accept that it will be a 2-for-1 against you. And, yeah, and then you kind of have to live with it.
Marauder's Axe was the play last turn. Skymarch Bloodletter for Baraniecki drains, and Militia Bugler finds another Militia Bugler. We're doing the chain.
The Squadron Bugler.
Finds his twin. All right, now we just need to find another one next turn, and then we'll have unlocked some kind of achievement on Arena. I'm not sure what.
The bingo.
Yeah. Skeleton Archer pings down the Goblin Motivator. Bloodletter gets in for 2.
Yeah, now Kentaro could equip an attack, but pretty bad to just spend your turn doing that. I think he is short on lands again.
Yeah. If only it's some Squadron Hawks.
Yeah, there is the Hawk, and then there is the equipment, so this is basically Cobblade.
Basically. Another Goblin Motivator hits the table, Militia Bugler equipped and attacking.
Very surprised that there was no block there.
Yeah, Baraniecki down to 12.
Because it's not like he can just race, he can just attack, and you are still trading a 3/3 for a 2/3.
But also 2
but
mana.
yeah.
Oh, here's the reason why. Strangling Spores was in hand. Gets in for 5. So scores tied up once again, 12-12 on life totals. 4th land now available to Kentaro.
Yeah, we could see Hurricane Reinforcements and attack for 6. Or we could just see a creature attacking for, 2 hasted.
Do you want to take half of Mike's life total, or do you want to develop out and kind of get him with that?
I lean more towards trying to get him with... Well, he does have a Pegasus in hand, which, can get haste and attack and make something else attack.
Yeah.
So I think actually getting the reinforcements isn't that bad, playing it now. Like, if he draws a land, he just has lethal next turn, for example.
Sure.
Well, he actually doesn't because the Instigator has to tap. But, yeah,
Yeah, so he's going to develop out his board here. Gallant Cavalry, a fantastic play before Heroic Reinforcements.
Oh, yeah, and then he has Vigilance,
Yep.
so he can attack, and he can threaten to block the Skeleton Archer. So I think that is actually better than the Heroic Reinforcements.
Gallant Cavalry, excellent in this type of deck. Paul Ritzel was struggling a little bit because he wanted Kentaro to pick Gallant Cavalry a little bit higher than he was in the draft, but he didn't end up with 1.
Oh, yeah, and Gallant Cavalry is really good. It was already a good card when it was called to the Cavalry in the previous format,
Yes.
and there wasn't nearly as much support for it. Like, now you legitimately have, like, 5 cards that boost your team, right? There's Make a Stand, there's Trumpet Blast, there's Heroic Reinforcements, there is the Angel of Dawn,
Yep.
and there is also the Inspired Charge. So that is 5 cards, and 3 of them are common. So you really get rewarded by having multiple blockers, or sorry, multiple attackers.
Line number 5 for Kentaro here. Life totals tied at 10 apiece. Heroic Reinforcements in hand. Pegasus Courser in hand as well for Kentaro. Walking Corpse and Vampire Neonate added to the board last turn for Mike.
Yeah, Kentaro does have the option of playing Pegasus, giving it haste, equipping it, and attacking for 5 in the air.
That's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
He's got 2 blockers back then in that case.
Yeah, he can also play the reinforcements and attack with everything, which wouldn't be the worst either. He does get a lot of attackers.
Okay, so it looks like he's going to equip onto a Knight token here. Give the Pegasus Courser haste and swing in this way so that he's taking 4 in the air, but having the equipment on the Knight token instead of the Pegasus Courser.
Well, he takes the same amount of damage.
Right.
He takes 5. He just leaves the equipment on the creature that can actually block, and the creature that is the least valuable. So if his opponent wants to lightning strike the Pegasus, at least the equipment's still equipped, which is pretty good given that he's constrained on mana. So there's an Act of Treason for Mike.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there is something he can... Well, if he Act of Treasons the 4/2, just attacks with everything, that is not enough. That is only 8 damage. But he does get to, kill both the creatures.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Which seems pretty okay to me. But Kentaro can chump block the Skeleton Archer instead of the 4/2. And he'll still be at 1 life. So that is, he actually has an extra attacker, which is a little bit threatening. Yeah, which would actually mean that Mike is dead to anything if he makes that play.
So he's going to swing in with the Sky March Bloodletter here. Kentaro will fall to 8. Mike at 5.
Yeah, now Kentaro in theory has the win because he
Yep.
can just pump his team and attack for 7 in the air, and then the Neonate can only gain 1 life. But is he going to go for it is the question. It's not like he flat out loses if Mike has anything, so I think it's conceivable that he just goes for it.
Okay, will Kentaro go all in with the Heroic Reinforcements this turn?
Yeah, he doesn't even need to go all in. He could just attack with the 2 flyers, and that will already force a response from Mike. But I imagine the cavalry is going to attack as well, given it will be a 3/3 vigilance.
Yeah.
So the worst that can happen is it trades with Skeleton Archer, which is good because he wouldn't be able to trade with Skeleton Archer in a different situation. And then he'll still have the 3 2/2s that, can also attack.
Oresco Swiftclaw is going to be the play for Kentaro. And we are going to give it haste.
Well, now Kentaro can equip the Swiftclaw, and
Yep.
then or the Pegasus, and he still gets to attack for 6 in the air, which still demands an answer, even with the Neonate.
Okay, so that is good. Pegasus Courser and the Swiftclaw.
Is Kentaro just not going to threaten lethal this turn? He got 2 different ways of threatening lethal.
Yes, he does.
So, and threatening lethal means if your opponent has something, which has to be a removal spell, they have to use it on an attacker. Also, you kind of know your opponent probably has something because they attacked. They could have just sat back. But it's not like they're accomplishing that much with that 2/2 either. So.
Okay, so Pegasus Courser is going to send the Knight into the air here. Swiftclaw attacks as well. Neonate wants to jump in front there. He's going to gain a life up to 6.
Oh, interesting. He favors Walking Corpse more than Neonate, which I guess is kind of interesting.
And there's Militia Bugler number 3 for Kentaro this game. And it finds another one! Yes, we did it! We did it! Achievement unlocked! Wow, Squadron Hawk is real!
I think he just missed lethal here because he has Actor Treason. So if he just blocks with Walking Corpse, then he gets to Actor Treason the Pegasus.
Yes.
And he gets to give flying to the Skeleton Archer, and that is 6 damage in the air. And then he gets to activate the unit for the last point of damage.
Oh, no.
So he would rely on Kentaro not having a removal spell or a flyer, but it doesn't look he's beating that anyway. So I think blocking with the neonate instead of the Walking Corpse is kind of going to cost him the game in a spot like this. I don't think he has lethal otherwise, and he's definitely not surviving next turn when Kentaro has heroic reinforcements on top of that.
No. And I guess in this situation, he was valuing the 2 power on Walking Corpse a little bit higher than Neonate's ability to drain, but turns out...
Yeah, it turns out that because he had Actor Treason specifically, then that is not really true.
Wow, this game was so close.
Yeah, it definitely was. I don't think there's anything Mike can do here.
Yeah, yeah, he saw it. Oh, but he saw it too late. Kentaro Yamamoto takes this match 2-1 over Mike Baraniecki. Oh, that's painful. He saw it, but it was just too late. All right, well, congratulations to Kentaro on the victory there. We'll advance to X and 1 still here in this tournament, so an excellent record. But really good game there here in this feature match area.
It was very narrow margins. I think
Yes.
both players, Kentaro could have gone for it the previous turn, and I don't know what would have happened had he gone for it. He had even 2 different ways of going for it. So I feel like every turn of the game, both players had an interesting decision. It wasn't those games that just play themselves out,
No.
You have a 2-drop, you play it on turn 2, 3-drop, that's on turn 3. They got to 4-drop with 5 cards in hand, and neither player could do anything. So it was a really cool game.
All right, more magic coming your way in just a second. Don't go anywhere.